Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'll go on then. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. So everyone's a little bit low energy right now. It's pre-lunch. Those of you who know me and have been to a few presentations know I kind of do the same bit every time. It's important. Stand up, please. It's called corporate yoga. It works every time. Trust me. Okay. Ready? Shake our arms out. Lift up. I think you're supposed to inhale. And then down, and then across your arms like this. Cross over here. Ignore the mic for now. I think this is called an eagle pose. Leg behind the other leg, like that. And then, no, you were actually doing it. Thank you. Okay, cool. You didn't have to do that. Thank you. Okay, cool. All right. So, the first thing I want to do, class, is, I used to be a school teacher. I can't help myself. Turn to your neighbor and talk about, first introduce yourselves, and do that thing, because this is actually about meeting other people that are like-minded or dealing with similar challenges, obviously. But turn to your neighbor and then talk about the one question. If you had to ask one question today, what would that one question be? What about Citrix, about Chrome, about Google in general with Citrix? Let's try to keep it within that frame. But go ahead and turn to your neighbor and talk about the one question you'd like to ask today. Okay, go. Still a hot mic, so probably shouldn't say anything Okay. This is quickly becoming an unconference. I lost the plot completely, so I lost control, absolutely. So clearly we had some good conversations. If you get nothing else out of this presentation, get that person's number or contact details, because you're probably, either that's a solution provider or it's someone who's dealt with your challenges. And so I highly encourage you to have more of these conversations today. And also, then there's going to be a mic later and you might ask your question. And if you don't get through all the questions today, at the end, you could always go to the Google booth, and we're going to sort of have huddles after this. And that's what we're here to do, to answer a bunch of questions and point you in the right direction to the right people. And so speaking of the right people, I'm joined today by my colleague Tharu, who is a Chrome Enterprise product manager, and work really close with Tharu with Citrix. And she's been one of the key people on our team to help bridge the gap when it comes down to a typical challenge. And stop me when this sounds familiar. Not literally, let me continue. So the typical challenge, and everyone's dealt with this before. I doubt you dealt with this with Citrix, but with other vendors. And it goes something like this. You have a problem, it's complicated, it doesn't seem to be in one specific spot. You're trying to debug. And you call vendor A, go through the support thing, back and forth, takes often days, sometimes weeks. They close the ticket, and they point to vendor B. And then vendor B does the same thing to you, vendor C. It's like now 6 weeks into your real problem, and you've gone all the way back now to vendor A, and therefore you say, I need to find one throat to choke, which is the one throat to choke, which is just one of the worst phrases in the IT industry. But vendors have created this problem because they need accountability. Because solutions haven't necessarily been built to be compatible or interoperable. And those vendors have been gotten used to doing the lazy thing and point the finger. And they actually train people to do that. And that's a fundamental problem in IT. It drives me crazy. It drives my customers crazy. And that's one thing if I solve one thing, that's the one thing that would give me purpose to solve. And the thing I really love working with Citrix, the reason I really love working with Citrix is that working with them, we solve those problems. I never get the finger pointing with them. And once I get Citrix involved, they bring the huge influence of Citrix, because Citrix works with, hundreds of millions of customers, and it's on all these devices. It's in 98% of the Fortune 500. So if it's Google plus Citrix and another third party, I'm pretty sure we're going to make that third party accountable too. And so, great example, Tharo and I worked for a year together with a bank. We were on daily cadence calls, then eventually a weekly cadence call between Google, Citrix, and in that case it was Epson. And this was we brought in engineers, we brought in solution architects, and we just kept going until we solved this problem. Guess how many seats we unlocked? 500 seats. We spent a year to unlock 500 seats. That's how much commitment I get from Citrix, which is crazy. It's like a total overinvestment. But that customer is important. The problem is one we really needed to solve, and we just dug in. Now, eventually, because the customer saw us do that, they said the next 5,000 seats, we're definitely doing with Citrix and Google. Absolutely, because it doesn't matter if it doesn't 100% work today. It doesn't matter if we're missing one feature, you're going to figure it out. We're very confident. So that's why I really love doing this type of thing and talking about our partnership. So what I want to do now, so we've done corporate yoga, you've talked to each other, I've done my spiel. Now I introduce Tharo, and she's going to tell you more about Citrix and Chrome Enterprise. Tharo.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to start with some introduction about today's modern digital workforce. And when we talk to CEOs, what we hear as being one of their biggest challenges is in modernizing their workforce and their company. And it's really IT leaders who are tasked with leading this digital business transformation. IT leaders are responsible both for this innovation and for managing the day-to-day operations of their company. And so, in order to innovate, IT has to empower and liberate their workforce. We're seeing a new breed of worker emerge, the cloud worker. Cloud workers are people who spend more than 4 hours each day in the browser using apps or SaaS. They are not tethered to any particular device or location. And they're working to develop insights and make critical decisions. In fact, according to Forrester, 1 in 4 workers today is already a cloud worker, even without the appropriate technology in place to support them. What they need is the flexibility to work when and where they please, familiar tools to drive efficiency, light and portable devices, and continuity across devices. If you look at the growth of SaaS, I think you can really use that as a proxy to see how the cloud is taking over. As of 2018, 57% of companies have migrated to the cloud. And that number is only expected to grow to 80% in 2020. Based on our studies, the way we work and our expectations have changed. Think about how we were all using computers 10 years ago. You'd probably have one computer that had all of your data and applications, and if you lost that computer, you'd lose the data forever. Today, with the right technology, you can make any device work seamlessly, anywhere, anytime. And this convenience is crucial because in our survey, 94% of employees report that they get work done while they're commuting, while they're traveling, or even while they're at home. And employees also now spend a large part of their workday completing tasks in a web browser, and this is an upward trend that's likely to continue and is reflective of the adoption of SaaS. In fact, 67% of workers rely more heavily on web browsers today than they did 2 years ago, and a decisive 90% of respondents consider browser-based apps as easy, if not easier to use, than legacy desktop applications. But legacy endpoints aren't really built to support security in this environment. They're not built to protect against malicious parties or common threat vectors. They're not built to sync customizations and compliance requirements across multiple devices, and they require high IT maintenance costs related to provisioning, continued support, and management. You need a high degree of intervention by IT professionals in order to back up data, apply virus updates, software updates, OS patches, you name it. And we don't think manual security patches is really the kind of thing IT professionals should be doing. We really want them to focus on building your business and enabling innovation across the enterprise. So how does Chrome Enterprise fit into this picture? Well, for one thing, Chrome is secure by design. It provides granular and flexible controls for managing the security of your users and devices. And it provides proven value, saving time and money in favor of your productivity. For cloud workers, Chrome Enterprise delivers ready access to enterprise applications. You can access SaaS applications, such as G Suite, through the Chrome browser. You can access Android applications through a fully customizable, managed Google Play storefront. And you can access SaaS or legacy applications via VDI. Chrome also provides efficiency and reduced worker downtime with automatic updates, fast boot times, and a seamless experience across devices, as well as on-device machine learning that helps improve workflows with time. And of course, Chrome comes in a variety of form factors, including premium and two-in-one devices, to enable you to equip a variety of use cases and give employees the hardware they want. So I mentioned that security is built into Chrome OS from the beginning. Chrome's multi-layered security model allows you to protect business data and mitigate costly breaches using a variety of features such as hardware-backed security in the form of the Google TPM chip, per-user encryption, tab and user sandboxing, and much more. Chrome also has AI-driven threat detection, which preempts costly mistakes. Take a look at our Safe Browsing or Google Play Protect, which scans apps for malware before and after you install them. And using Chrome, you can easily provision, monitor, and lock down your devices. Chrome provides regular and controlled updates that run seamlessly in the background, with a 6-week update cycle for features and a 2 to 3 week security patch cycle. These updates run in the background while employees work, minimizing disruption and maximizing uptime. Management options provided by the Chrome Enterprise license allow you to enforce policies across a wide range of criteria to control which types of websites, apps, and extensions can be accessed by users. Chrome has over 200 security policies, including user and device-based policies, as well as centralized fleet and update management features. The user policies apply to each user no matter what device they're using, and the device policies apply to a device no matter which user logs in. Chrome also allows flexible EMM and IDP options, including Active Directory, Google Cloud Identity, some SSO providers, and UEM integrations. And you can use Chrome Enterprise to set up a grab-and-go loaner program in which users can grab any device off of a rack and use that for the day, with all of their apps and data seamlessly syncing as soon as they log in. And the Chrome Enterprise license also comes with 24/7 support every step of the way. ESG did a study and found that Chromebooks help organizations in 3 primary areas. 1, reduced acquisition costs, including hardware and software. 2, reduced operational costs, including deployment, administration, support, maintenance, and power. And 3, improved business uptime, including less data risk, increased user productivity, and less downtime. Chromebooks can replace traditional Windows, Mac, or iOS devices in a variety of use cases, such as kiosks for something like event registration, field workers like insurance adjusters or utility workers, knowledge workers, your typical office users, and more, whether they have basic, advanced, or power user needs. So we have here a diagram that shows the annual per-device admin savings that you can see when you're using Chrome. If you look at the elimination of virus updates, simplified software updates, OS patching, avoiding the need for hardware updates, and the elimination of device and data backup, you're looking at a total annual savings per device of $482. Google is an enterprise too. We deploy Chrome, we have our own grab and go program. We offer the choice of OS to our employees, but we've seen noticeable cost savings when using Chrome OS, both in terms of deployment times and when it comes to supporting our customers. So if you look at this diagram, the average time to deploy a new device is about half an hour for a Chromebook, and that's compared to almost 2.5 hours for either Windows or Mac. And Chrome OS generates fewer support tickets per 1,000 devices, 19 support tickets versus 33 for Linux, 53 for Mac, and 95 for Windows. So that's a significant savings in terms of support. Okay, so with that, I'll turn it over to Richard to talk about Citrix and Chrome Enterprise.
Thank you, Thero. Okay, so how many of you are already using Citrix today? Okay, so great, excellent. How many of you are using Chrome OS already? Okay, nice, excellent. And how many of you are already considering using Chrome OS? Somewhere in that process. Okay, so basically split the room, excellent. Okay, so with the things you need to be aware of, the questions that typically come up, for one, so how long have you been doing this? Is this a new thing? So the answer to that is no. So if you look at the technology adoption curve, Citrix is way over here with the innovators, and they were way ahead of the curve when it came to Chrome. We launched our first commercial devices back in mid-2011, like May 2011. Citrix launched what was then called Citrix Receiver on Chrome OS in August 2011, just a few months later. They were the first enterprise app on a Chrome device. To be totally frank, I think they knew where this was going better than Google did. Like we were like, oh, this is going to work in education, consumer, let's see what happens. That's kind of how we do things initially. We figure stuff out. But Citrix is like, no, you have no idea. This is going to completely change the way our customers consume our Citrix services. They were ahead of the curve. I think right in the last, I would say 18 months, we've seen that they were right, okay? We've seen, we've taken off in a few industries. And I'll talk more about those industries. But look at the Citrix Workspace app that has been on Chrome OS since 2011. We are now have an app for just dedicated to Chrome. They are also porting over their Android app to run on Chrome as well. So they have a Citrix Workspace for Android. So that is now going to be on Chrome OS as well. It's technically available today. The Chrome app is really the one that's further along in terms of its features and capabilities. But we're constantly innovating with Citrix. We're also looking at what we can do better in the browser with Citrix. And so for those of you familiar with Citrix Workspace, and you've seen some of the presentations by people like PJ Hall and David Henshaw, they would have talked about Citrix Workspace is no longer just this VDI, sort of virtual app and desktop portal. It is now the secure digital workspace around all your information, whether that's a virtual app or a desktop, or a Google app, or Salesforce, or Workday, and then they're taking information from those different apps and then surfacing the tasks. And so you're going to see a lot of presentations about that from Citrix. So all that runs great on a Chrome device. There's different form factors. There are different form factors. I have a Chromebook up here, a Pixelbook. There's also the Chrome Bit, which is an HDMI stick. There is the Chrome Box, which is just a desktop device where you plug in your own monitor, your own keyboard and peripherals. And then the Chrome Base, which is like an all-in-one touchscreen. So, and all that is now running on Google Cloud. What we've announced this week, integration with Google Identity, the integration with Machine Creation Services, MCS, on Google Cloud. So some of these proof of concepts that have been on Google Cloud with Citrix are now going to be able to scale with MCS. And that's all, again, integrated with G Suite. So when Citrix does the different things they have now in Workspace around data leakage protection, so watermarking and preventing screen capture and things like that, that will also apply to any SaaS app, including G Suite. And also we have direct hooks into G Suite for Drive, so you can surface Drive content directly in the Workspace app. And we've talked about industries. Some examples of that are healthcare and retail and manufacturing and the tech sector. All these are industries that are rapidly moving to Citrix on Chrome. And now those workloads are going onto Google Cloud Platform. So the reason why people are shifting, and I'll just walk through a typical use case in, let's say, healthcare. Healthcare is one of the ones that have really taken off. The reason why it really makes sense to have Citrix on Chrome OS now is just think about the way, think about a hospital right now. Imagine how many of you are actually in healthcare? Would say there's probably a good few. Yeah, good guess. Okay, so again, think of like if you're in healthcare, you typically will have many users to a very small number of IT people. So you'll have like this really high ratio of users to IT people. So you might have 250 users to a single IT admin. Is that roughly right? Because shaking heads from the healthcare people, yeah? Or it could be worse than that. So you have these users spread out all across these different hospital systems. Most of these hospital systems are expanding. They're consolidating with different other hospitals. So they're going over literally in a year time. Some of these hospitals are going from 1,000 beds and like maybe 5,000 staff or something like that, or 10,000 staff, to going to being triple that within a year, which is crazy. And they try to get everything on one system. Now, if they want to get devices, new devices, like a huge refresh out to all those different hospitals, and they only have IT centrally located, think about the challenges they have to go through. So Thuru mentioned the downtime and the time to deploy a new device. So instead of having to either go out manually to all these different users and have them sort of re-image all these devices by hand, or then use really expensive software that requires specialized skills to deploy these devices. With Chrome devices, you have a device that can literally just show up at the hospital, they turn it on, plug it in, and it just works. The Citrix Workspace, which I'll demonstrate later, will go download directly to the device through policy. All their configurations, their policies, and all their settings have been done centrally. And that's all been done as a part-time job. So the Chrome management capability you have with Chrome OS means that you have a single pane of glass, whether that's with Chrome management or it could be with Citrix endpoint management, to push out these policies remotely in a way that is so easy, and I'll show you how we do this with a few clicks, that I can deploy to one user as quickly as deploy to 1,000 or 10,000 or 50,000 users. With a few clicks, I can, within about 10 minutes work, as I'll show you, I could push out everything I need to those users, and they're done. They have everything they need from Citrix and Google. And we just make it really easy to do those central updates, make it really easy to manage those devices. And so there's really three different reasons. If you look at our customer case studies, we don't have to tell customers, because customers tell us these things. We just consolidate these sort of learnings. Productivity is a big one. If I have a device and it fails for some reason, then I can just go to a grab and go. So we have this concept of just taking a device off the rack, logging in, and then because of all your policies and your apps are aligned to your user ID, that just downloads directly to the device. And you're seeing grab and go is now a thing that it's actually a really great place to start with Chrome. If you are trying to figure out like what's my first kind of use case, grab and go is a really easy one. It's a layup. We have we've open sourced the capability where you can just easily sync these devices up and have it very easy to just loan them out and track them. And then with Citrix Workspace on Chrome OS, then they're just going to get Citrix deployed directly to the device with the right configuration, whatever you have set up in the console. Security is another big one. We've had a bank. This bank has not allowed us to talk about this publicly, so I just say a big bank. And they said that for the first time, they're able to send their traders out of the office with a device. Banks are really super sensitive. This bank is extremely sensitive about losing information. And so with a Chrome device with Citrix, nothing is on the device. They can wipe their device clean, and they can be sort of rest assured that if that device was stolen, they would be able to control it remotely, wipe it, and if needed, force it back in the domain, and they have that device completely locked down. So there's sort of no digital footprint at all. Another good example similar, a big coffee company, because I can't say the actual name, but you can probably have a few guesses there. And so you go to see how their baristas get trained in the back office. They will go in and log into Citrix Workspace. They'll get access to their employee self-service apps, all the training apps, all their corporate information. And when they log out, and this is kind of extreme, they wipe the device completely. It's something called forced ephemeral mode, and it literally wipes the Workspace app as well, which is a little bit extreme. We don't recommend that as an approach. It's a little bit too much. But that means it's literally no trace at all after every time they log out. But it downloads so quickly that they can actually do that every single time and just have effectively a fresh install of Citrix. So that's sort of extreme cases, but the point being we can really meet you where you are with whatever your security profile are and your security posture is, depending on the user profile. And then flexibility. I'll show you in a few minutes. I can do a demo where I will set up my 50,000 devices as kiosks. They'll take me less than 10 minutes. And then I'll take that same 50,000 devices and switch them into logged in users, where it's like a multi-purpose device, where they're not just using Citrix, they're also using Chrome browser and Android apps. And I have the flexibility to pivot like that really quickly. So for fast-moving organizations, that can make a lot of sense to have something that's that flexible. So customer stories. So Middlesex Hospital, a really great example. We'll show you in a video in a second. Middlesex Hospital wanted, and this is really typical of healthcare, they started off in the periphery. And what I mean by that is they started off with the use cases outside of the clinical workspace. And so they started off with their emergency medical services, which we'll show you in a second, with Citrix. And so now all the ambulances for Middlesex, as well as you think of emergency medical services as really being almost like affiliates. It's the fire services, it's everyone else, the paramedics that go out there and work on behalf of the hospital. They all log in with the Citrix workspace on Chrome OS. They actually use really low-end devices to do that. And they've got, I think, like less than $300 device. And their old device that they were replacing was a $3,000 Toughbook. And they said the total cost of that with service and all the software is closer to $5,000. So they place a $3,000 to $5,000 device with a $300 device plus the Citrix licenses. And they can drop those devices from up on the stage down to the floor. It'll be fine. Like it's not even a ruggedized device. It's just a normal Chromebook. And they were able to do that for all their emergency medical services. They got really excited about that, and they started to move inwards. They said, okay, now we're not going to be into the clinical workspace yet. We're going to start just with our nurses and our doctors. Because when they go to staff meetings, they might be using like a shared kiosk during the day, but during their staff meetings, they just want to pull a device off the rack so they can have conversations, informed conversations about patient care. And so they use the grab-and-go concept, and they apply that to dealing with patient huddles, basically, in these staff meetings. And they'll log into Citrix to get into their Epic or their Cerner EHR system or EMR system and can have those informed discussions. And now, with the recent launch of Imprivata, we've announced this at HIMSS, and we're about to come up with the Trusted Tester later this year and then the GA. That's the tap and go capability to tap in or tap out into a Chrome device. And that's so doctors and nurses don't have to log in like 50 times a day. They just tap a badge. We now have that feature coming to Chrome OS, and that's baked right into the operating system. So we work really closely with Imprivata. Actually, I have one of the Imprivata engineers right here, in case you want to ask some really tough questions. And work really closely with that team. It's been a great collaboration. And again, if it was just Google coming up with Chromebooks, initially, Imprivata would be like, okay, well, let's see what happens. And then it was Google plus Citrix telling them, no, trust us, this is going to be a thing. And then the customers coming to them saying, no, actually, we really do want to work with Citrix and Chrome with Imprivata. Then we started to get some momentum. And now we're getting close to launch. We're really excited about that. And then Woolworths, they were one of their early adopters. It's not Woolworths as in the US Woolworths. It's one of the largest employers in Australia, and if not the largest, actually. And they moved to Citrix on Chrome OS, again, for many of the same reasons. So retail, bunch of different stores across the country, lots of staff, very few local IT people. And so able to just push out the Citrix workspace on Chrome OS really quickly and easily to get to all those different devices and to be able to manage them remotely without local staff and then they can access all their corporate infrastructure and then lock it down to just what they need for those retail staff. So they need to get to HR, they need to get to training. But notice the pattern. It sounds a lot like where we took off initially in education. So initially everyone thought you're an education device. That's all you do, you just do students. And I get that. We were successful to a point where then people assumed that's all we did. But it was the same thing. It was in many ways, different use cases, totally different business drivers, different security, all the rest of it. But very few IT people, lots and lots of users, spread out geographically. And in their cases, they were going through massive device refreshes. And Chrome devices just took that problem off their hands so they could go focus on tougher challenges in their business. And so lots and lots of companies out there using Citrix on Chrome OS and who are cloud native. So great examples here. Sanmina is another great one. RBS, Whirlpool. There's many different use cases. So come talk to us. Come talk to us at our booth at 202 down the expo floor and come talk to us afterwards. I'm pretty confident we'll have a use case that has been, if not exactly the same as yours, very, very similar, and probably in your industry and probably here in the US. Okay, so now I'm going to go into a demo, although where was the video? I think we missed that. Yeah, maybe we'll do the video next. So I'm going to toggle over if this cooperates with me and my device hasn't completely gone to sleep. Okay, good. Okay, cool. So we're going to go, and we got that going. Just give me a second. And we're going to go 7. That's fine.
I got it.
Yeah, got it? Yep.
We respond to approximately 10,000 911 calls a year. Instead of having to wait until the call is complete, we can get started immediately with a Chromebook.
The technology for us has to be patient-centric. To operate in the Chrome environment with no learning curve has been a huge advantage for us.
Healthcare IT is undergoing a bit of a shift for the last 15, 20 years. No longer do you have a $3,000 PC that was for a specific use case. Our on-call doctors, our EMS, they are roaming workers. The ability to easily hand off one device to multiple people without leaving a footprint of what they were working on or where they've been. It allows a great deal of flexibility.
What we're doing is bringing the emergency department to the patient. So our technology is critical. We've had 0 failures with the Chromebooks. When they open, they're on and they're ready to go. They definitely give us a better level of confidence when we're out in the field.
Google Cloud and Chrome provides us an opportunity to bring a modern, secure platform into the healthcare arena. And the Chrome integration with Citrix allows us to access our legacy applications. What Google is allowing us to do is put the focus back on our patients.
Okay. Do we do the right thing? Okay, for some reason this is not sharing back. And now I'm getting the tech person. We've rehearsed this a million times. I've probably screwed this up. So you can. Thank you, actually. It's probably the right thing to do. I just don't want to touch anything at this point. There is.
All right, you're around here. All right.
Good.
Yeah,
On this right here.
yeah. This is 100% user error, I assure you.
Sorry.
Any good jokes? No? Nothing? Yeah, it is actually. It is. It's totally a Mac. Because it was connected, I didn't want to screw anything up. And I was like, yeah. Apple. Right? Hey, all right. Woo.
I see.
Okay, but I can't share. Why are we sharing screen though? should be mirroring, right?
Yeah, can we mirror it?
Because otherwise I'm going to have to present down here. Right, so with I'll just kind of go a little bit more detail on Middlesex. If you do get the chance to meet anyone from Middlesex, there's a guy named Mike Romatzik who was actually on the presentation, on the video, and he would talk to you about like how transformative this has been. But also, one thing I always get from Mike is every time we do like a customer roundtable, we'll have customers that have looked at this before, and they've looked at it 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 2 years ago, and at that time they said, no, it just didn't make sense. There were feature gaps. It didn't have what we needed. And then he said, okay, well, hang on, what were those gaps? And they list them out, like, solved that 6 months ago, solved that last release, solved that. He's better at this than we are, quite frankly, because he's in the trenches. He's like dealing with these issues. So even if you've checked out Chrome devices like a long time ago, or even 6 months ago, guarantee you, between us and Citrix, we've probably solved some problems really recently that will then unlock that opportunity for you to allow you to adopt them. Here we go. Now I'll go into my demo. So the demo gods seem to be angry today, so I'm not going to guarantee that this is going to work because it's also the Wi-Fi here. So that's crossing our fingers, which actually has been really good. I hope I don't jinx myself. So I'm going to go ahead and really quickly, in less than, say, 7 minutes, do a couple quick things. My boss has just told me 20,000 devices, lock them down to kiosk mode, do it today. I was like, okay, fine. I'm not an expert here. I actually didn't really even take training with Chrome management, but I've got a task list, and I'm just going to figure this thing out. So let's say force-free enrollment, check. I've done that. That means that if someone takes it off the domain, tries to get it into a different domain or uses a personal device, it forces it right back into my domain. My domain's Chrome Summit. I'm going to get down here, and I'm going to go to kiosk settings. I'm just going to search for that. I can get down really quickly. I'm going to put in Citrix Workspace. I'm going to do that. Citrix, search on that. Everything's going, I've only down to probably spent a minute just talking, so I got to go faster now. I'm going to auto launch Citrix Workspace. I'm going to turn on health monitoring. I'm going to turn on the device system log. I'm going to say, yes, I've notified my users because I did do that. And then I'm going to hit save. And I've locked that. Now those 20,000 devices locked down into kiosk mode, but I had to do my policies, didn't I? So now I have to go out into Chrome and go to app management. So you have the Citrix JSON config file. I have to push that out, right? So let me just make sure. I'm pretty sure that it's already tied to the Citrix Workspace app. But it's going to go in here, and it's going to double check to make sure. I'm just going to double check to make sure I've done that correctly. So I double click here, go into kiosk settings, and I scroll down, and just go click on this. And then if I go down to the configuration file, okay, so, oops, into the lab unit, let's go in the configuration file. Okay, cool. So that's where I upload my configuration file, so I can just take my configuration file from the sort of JSON file that I create from Citrix.com, and I'll just upload that right there. So that would have taken me, what would that take me, 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes? Not 4. Okay, that was me, not an IT person, not an engineer, very little training, off I went. So now, same boss, who's a little bit annoying. Now, sorry, I was wrong. I didn't mean 20,000 kiosk users. I meant the general, like, end users. Like, they just need to log into everything. I'm like, okay, you should have told me the first time. Not a problem. Let me just undo this really quickly. So I go back in there, super fast, and I go into device management, Chrome management. I'm just going to sort of unwind what I just did with a few clicks. So I'm going to go to device settings. And again, because I can just search through my policies here, I can whip through this super fast. And all I need to do is just take this kiosk app, and I'm just going to remove that. So I'm going a little bit too fast for this internet, but it's actually still going quite well. Hit save. That's wiped out the kiosk app. I'm going to make sure it doesn't auto launch like that. Okay. Ooh, I didn't remove that. Let me just make sure I did. Okay, save. And that should get rid of the kiosk app, I believe. Okay. Oh, that's not. Oh, there we go. For some reason that didn't work. I probably didn't hit save properly because my user error is strong with me today. Okay. All right, so now I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to then go into my settings over here to start to put in the right settings for a logged in user. So now the device settings, those were locking down a device. So I've unlocked the device, okay? So it's no longer a kiosk. And now what I want to do is push out user settings. So the device settings will be true to that device. User settings follow the user. So the grab and go, the reason that works is because user settings will follow the users to that device they grab off the shelf. So I'm going to go in here, and a few things I want to do really quickly is I want to restrict user sign-in. So it's going to do some sign-in restrictions in my user settings. And so I'll just go sign in. Yeah, so sign in. Let me just make sure I've got that all set. Okay, so I have no policy set. Let's see, I've got sign with browser. Okay, all that looks fine. I'm going to, let's say, I'll keep it as is. I'll do no policy set for that one. Let's see, and I'll go in here, and what I want to do is just go and set some additional policies that are going to be true of just this group of users. And again, this is just the group of users that are in the org unit here. Okay, and so I'm going to go into incognito. Okay, so it now says allow incognito mode. So all these users, those 20,000 devices, I don't want to allow that. I want to remove incognito mode. So I've done that. And then I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to also remove guest mode. Okay, so I'm going to remove that. So I don't want people to just, I want them to actually need a login. So I'm going to get into scrolling down. Okay, this is a Australian scroller, so I'm just going to go down here. I've got my policy set for allowing extensions. I want to force extensions though, so I want to force the Citrix app. So I want the Citrix app just to show up on the desktop. So I'm going to go to workspace here, Citrix. I'm going to hit search, add that. Now I want to pin it to the desktop as well. So I want to, this now means that Citrix Workspace is automatically pushed out to all these devices. I'm going to also go into Citrix Workspace to pin it. That means it's going to show up on the shelf right alongside with G Suite. That's done. Okay, and let's go to, I'm going to save that. Okay, and then also what I want to do is just want to blacklist any websites that I don't want them to go to. So I'm going to URL blacklist BL. There we go. Blocking. Sorry. There's the URL blacklist. I'm just going to say, Facebook.com is not what I want my users to do. And let's just keep them off of Twitter for now. .com, and this could be arbitrary websites. You can just drop that in. And then, of course, you can have exceptions. So you can effectively whitelist these websites as well. So you can see within a few clicks, I've now, within less than another 3 minutes, I was able to roll back my settings and now apply a different set of settings that'll be relevant just for these logged in users. So now they'll log into a Chrome device. They'll be able to access their Chrome browser, so all their SaaS apps, their Android apps, and then can also access Citrix Workspace. But instead of being locked into kiosk mode, they can just go to the icon for Citrix Workspace and then click on that and then access all those apps there. So those are two completely different types of configurations, all done in the span of 10 minutes by someone who was an English major. Okay, so that's it. That's our presentation. Now we've got a few more minutes, 51 seconds, to open it up to Q&A. So we went a little bit too long to the technical issue. So we got one question, and then after that we'll have to huddle around. Okay, so what's the one big question you want to ask? Yes?
In the session you talked about mentioning what's on the future roadmap for Chrome OS.
Yeah, the future roadmap for Chrome OS. So we're really excited what we're doing with Citrix. So look out for what we do with the Android app. So the Android app is going to be the primary app for Citrix. So generally speaking, most users are going to want to move to the Android app on Chrome OS. So that's going to, and right now the Android app is not where it needs to be, so it needs to have things like multi-monitor and some of the basic stuff like that. And then once we launch past that, what we're also going to be doing with Citrix is looking at ways we can move to the browser as well. So the Citrix Workspace, the HTML5 version, is not really up to speed to where it needs to be. So we're working closely with Citrix to see how can we get Workspace to run great in the browser just as well as it could run on the device. So that's stuff that we're collaborating with Citrix on, and we do a lot of workshopping with them on that. There is another thing on the roadmap, but I'm not allowed to share it publicly yet, which is talking about how another really interesting way we can deal with users that are working remotely or from a cafe. But I can't really talk about that now. That's like some really cool stuff coming down the track. Besides that, it's around the integrations. So Imprivata integrations coming out. Zebra's new to Citrix on Chrome OS. So Zebra barcode scanners, printers, etc. Topaz signature pads, that's specifically for patient consent forms and things like that. So those peripheral integrations will be the next big thing as well. Yes? Oh, so not using Microsoft at all? Yeah. Oh, so moved off of, but no desktop apps, you mean? Yeah. So great question. So the companies that do them most easily are the ones that are born in the cloud. So they've never had Windows at all. They never had Microsoft Office. To be frank, the vast majority of customers out there, if they don't have Office, they have these little apps. They're a Win32 app or something like that, or an Access app they built, and it's 30 users, and it's important. And the person that left with no documentation left 10 years ago, you know this story. This is very familiar. They might have hundreds of those. And that's why I think Citrix virtualization, even though their bigger story is like how do we integrate SaaS and become that secure perimeter, a lot of these customers are going to stay with some presence on Windows or some dependencies with those legacy apps. So we do see users do this. They do migrate away. They do move completely to G Suite. It's typically the board and the cloud customers that do that. But the larger, more innovative customers, they're just tired of it. They're able to move because they can just move completely to G Suite and just collaborate 100% in Google Docs, which works obviously great. Thank you. Thank you very much. And please come on and come up here and talk if I didn't answer your question.